Hello everyone, I'm Gary Williams. This is Ramblings of a Sysadmin. This is where I've got my cup of tea, I've got my lab, and today I'm going to be rambling about Let's Encrypt. As you can see here, I've got my web page up and running. You can see it's the default Red Hat Enterprise Linux test page, but I've got my website up and running, but it has this big not secure. Now, for various reasons, not secure is not a good thing to have. There's all sorts of bonuses that having HTTPS, things like SEO, for example. You do get a slightly higher Google page rank if you have HTTPS. There's various other things as well, but having not secure is not a good thing. Browsers will flag it, and it means that any traffic that is going from your machine or a customer's machine or whatever machine to your website is going over the wire in plain text. Obviously, this isn't good for passwords, this isn't good for usernames, this isn't good for anything. But what's also a bit more nefarious is certain internet service providers will inject adverts and other crap into that stream. So you want to do whatever you can to protect that connection from your customers, clients, visitors, machines down to your server. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Let's Encrypt to show you how to do that nice and easy. Now this is going to be running off of a Red Hat Enterprise Linux server that I've got running in AWS. You can do the same technique using other operating systems. I'll show you where to go to get the instructions on how to do it. If you do get stuck with a particular flavor of Linux, let me know. I will happily do another video on a particular flavor of Linux, not a problem. I'll also cover Windows at some point. I've not actually used Let's Encrypt for Windows yet, but certainly worth a go. This is the SSH console of my server. Now the default page, as you've probably already aware, it's powered by Apache. Nginx works in a very similar way. Again, I'll probably do a video on Nginx in the future, but for the moment I'm using Apache. Now there is one small change I have to make to Apache in order to get it to talk HTTPS, and that's installing the ModSSL plugin. So this is the ModSSL plugin installing, and all this does is it just adds the ability to Apache to use HTTPS. I'm a little surprised this doesn't come as standard, but it's a module you have to install. There it is. The best way to use Let's Encrypt is to use their Let's Encrypt Certbot, and the best way to find out how to actually go about installing Certbot and getting Certbot, deploying your certificates, is to come to this Certbot eff.org website and just select my HTTP website is running on Apache on, where is it? Oh, RHEL 6. So RHEL, CentOS 7, 8, it's pretty much the same thing. I have picked my website is running Apache on CentOS Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8. If I scroll down, these are the instructions for getting Certbot installed on my machine. Now, Certbot is using this snapd installer, so I have to go install snapd. Process for doing that is listed here. This sounds a bit more fiddly than it actually is, but honestly, it's not that difficult. It's just another installer, and we have to add the EPL registry, which is the enhanced Yum repository. But all I have to do is expand that, install this. To be honest, I actually recommend installing the EPL repository anyway, because it does have some nice bits and pieces in it. So all we do is run that. DNF is the new installer. If you've not come across DNF, it stands for the amazing phrase dandified yum, or dandified tiny yum or something. But it is the replacement for yum. Let's do a DNF upgrade. So that's EPEL installed, and now I need to install snapd. So I can copy that line from there, go install snapd. This should only take a few seconds. Yep, install that. Off it goes. Last thing I have to do is actually enable Snapd. So we can do that via this line here. And create this link. And I have to log out and back in again or restart your system to ensure Snap's paths are updated. So what I'm going to do is actually just reboot the server. This is where things like having all this stuff baked into the AMI or through some sort of automation does make life a lot easier. So back into the Linux server, and I've just run the snap command to make sure it's actually going to run. And as you can see, it's all here, it's all looking good. The snap installer is kind of OS agnostic. It's one of the reasons why Certbot started using it. You can actually read some bits and pieces about it here. And it's quite a nice little installer. Anyway, onward, we're doing Certbot. So all we need to do, go back to the Certbot page, copy this line here. Bit like Yum or DNF or whatever. It's just going to go and download some packages. Now for the actual Certbot itself. And that's it, easy as. But that still doesn't give me my certificate. So I have to actually tell Certbot that I'm using Apache. Now I have to go and fill out a small form. Now that Certbot is installed on my machine, what I need to do is secure my website. Something that's important to know is with Apache, the best way to do this is to make sure that the website you're using has its own virtual host entry. Now, virtual hosts let you have many websites on the server, but what I'm doing is I'm just using the default web page because I just need a web page I can show you. And what I've done is I've created this virtual host, which has got my server name in now, and I'm pointing it to this no index directory because that's where this index file here lives. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run Certbot. And it will actually go through the virtual hosts and it will say, hey, hang on, I found this virtual host. Do you want me to secure it? Yes, I do. It will go off, do a challenge. Now the cert that it's deploying is what's called a DV cert, domain validated. And domain validated literally means I have to go and validate the domain. And it does that by doing a DNS check to make sure that the IP address and everything else matches. And Certbot will do all this internally. And this is one of the beauties of Certbot, and it's how you can automate it. Once you've got the first cert, you can go off and you can automate the whole thing, and it will do the same DV checks and just keep the cert updated in the background. So you don't really have to worry about certs ever again. So as you can see, the cert has been installed. We've had a challenge, everything's good, it's installed. Go back to the website. Notice that it actually redirected me. One of the really nice things that Certbot will do is it will put an automatic redirect in place. I could go and remove port 80 from the firewall rules, but there's no point. Anyone who's currently hitting port 80 gets redirected to 443, and that's really what I want. I want them to see the secure version of the page. Now, there's several things to say. Yes, the cert is installed. Does it make the site secure? No. Does it make the server secure? No. All the certificate is doing is securing the connection from the client to the server. Your server could happily have, say, WordPress or something like that with a vulnerable plugin, and people can still attack it. It's the plugin that's vulnerable, and yeah, they can attack it over a nice secure connection, but it's still the plugin that's vulnerable. They can still get to your site. So please don't think that certs are any sort of panacea for meaning you don't need to patch. You still need to patch. You still need to make sure that your site is as secure as it can be. And another thing to take away from this is even with a certificate on there, the link from the client to the server still isn't as secure as it could be. Let me show you something. If I take my URL, go to security headers, paste it in there, I'm going to come back with an F. I have a secure certificate. but I'm missing these headers from a Let's Encrypt certificate to one that you pay for. The standards are all the same. It's all 128-bit or 256-bit encryption. Whatever it is, it's all the same. This extra security comes from using these headers. And I will show you how to use this strict transport security header. It is the one that will say to any client connecting to your machine, this site should always and only ever be available over HTTPS. And if for any reason it isn't, it will stop connections to that site. And this is really what you want. You don't want people dropping down to HTTP. And it also means that you have to keep the certificate up to date on your machine. Obviously, Certbot lets you do that, but it just helps keep you focused on that. And it does give you that additional bit of security. The way it tells the client that this site must always be over HTTPS is it just sets a cookie. So let me go and set this strict transport security now. And the nice thing about security headers is it pretty much tells you what you need to do. So I need to add this header in here. This max age is in seconds. I can't recall how many years that is, but it's a significant number. Something to note, when you set this, it will push a cookie down to the client machine. Every time you connect, that cookie gets reset basically. So every time you connect, the max age gets reset. So if you haven't connected to the website for like 20,000 seconds or whatever it is, as soon as you connect, it's a reset. And this timer is effectively, it's a timer. This timer will restart. To add in the strict transport security header, what I need to do is I need to edit the Apache config file. Now, I'm not imaginative with names. I've just called my config file main.conf. If I go into that file, what you'll see is this is listing on port 80, and I've got these 3 lines here. I didn't add these lines. This is the virtual host that the Certbot found when it asked me which site I wanted to add a certificate to. And it added in these rewrite rules so that anyone hitting port 80 get redirected to port 443. The other thing that it did is it created this file here. Main LE being Let's Encrypt, SSL, yeah, it's using an SSL cert. Technically it's using a TLS cert, but let's not go there. And this includes this ModSSL cert, port 443, and it's got server name, and it's got links to the certificate files. Now it will create these Let's Encrypt directories as well, and it will put the necessary files in there. So I've got the full chain, the priv key PEM, everything that it needs. What I'm going to do, I really wish it would use tabs. I'm going to go to this line here, back to my config, and add this as a header for my website. And the way I have to do this is header always set. Would have helped if I had that on insert. Strict transport security. Max age, that big number, includes subdomains. Now, include subdomains just means anything that's under secure.gwnet.com will get included as well, which is exactly what we want. So that should set the header. Let's save that. This will require a restart of Apache. I've made a change, it needs a restart. So we do that, it's come up with no errors. So if I go back to my website, hit F5, nothing really happens, it's still secure, I'm not seeing any changes. But if I go back to this security headers site, rescan, suddenly I've gone from an F to a D. Now a D is still not brilliant, but it's a hell of a lot better than an F, and I get a nice green tick for strict transport security. If I try to connect to the site over port 80, I'm going to get told, no, that's not allowed, and it will just stop the connection. As we can see here as well, I have strict transport security set up. So as I say, this means that anytime anyone connects to the site, they will be told this site is always and only ever available over HTTPS. The last thing I'm going to want to do, and I won't do it on this box as it's just a test box, but I should set up a cron job for, say, every week to rerun Certbot. And what I can do is copy a line that's here. Certbot cert only. I think there's a cert renew as well you can put in, and it will go off and it will just renew the cert. Yeah, sorry, Certbot renew. Don't have to dry run, just let it do its thing. Any problems, it will send you an email. And that's it. That is Let's Encrypt in a nutshell. It does sound a bit fiddly having to get the snapd installed, but once you've got snapd installed and you've got Certbot there, it really is very simple. The redirects are all set up for you. Everything is there. You set up the cron job, walk away from it. That's your site done. What I will do as well is I'll create some additional videos in the future that just goes through how to add in all those additional headers. So we'll try to get this as good as possible. And hopefully you can see the value in adding in these headers to your own websites. Anyway, I hope that's been useful. Any questions, any concerns, anything you're not sure about, please drop a comment, subscribes, likes, even dislikes, anything like that. It's all handy. And thank you very much for your time.